All right. So this is my second retrospective on my second new video. Keeping up the consistency. I am a king. Maybe the greatest man who's ever lived. Probably. So this one I was a lot more proud of my editing strides than anything else. The writing I do think took a big hit up. I think it did improve. I think my 1,000 word forced count was really good because it made me not be lazy again. So I had to talk and I had to examine things more interestingly instead of just saying, "Oh, I wasn't a huge fan of this," and then stopping. It did lead to some stuff. I'll talk about that later. But to get to the point, I really like the editing. I gave myself a lot more time this time instead of last time. I gave myself 1 day to go from no video to video. Like the audio and the writing was all done, but the video I had not even. I had to download the video editing software that day. That was a part of the thing I had to do. I didn't have that yet. So that was really rushed, but this time I really gave myself some time. I had it recorded ahead of time. I had the audio recorded ahead of time, and I gave myself, I think, 3 days to edit the video. And I think that really, really, really helped me out. Um, I liked a lot of the things that I started to teach myself. I liked how I used a lot more video editing, like specifically putting in video. And there was like dumb little things that I was proud of, like in the Muppet Treasure Island retrospective. That joke with the Disney thing coming in, I was really proud of that. I thought because that wasn't a pre-made clip. I did the effects to make it blurry and out of focus and kind of come in, and that's an incredibly easy thing. Like that's not high level fucking editing, but I didn't know how to do it. So learning how to do that felt awesome. I was really, really proud of that. I got some independent compliments on my calculator joke in the Martyrs review. I was really proud of that joke. I thought of that joke quite a bit ahead of time, actually. So that was awesome. But we'll get to the writing. And if I think of more video editing stuff, I will bring it up. So I started off with Starship Troopers. I'm pretty happy with this one, actually. It's pretty long. Took just shy of 10 minutes. Sorry. And I thought it was pretty well put together in comparison to everything else I've ever done. I'm still nowhere near where I want to be at. Um, but as opposed to the last video, I thought it was a pretty big step up. It was the first thing, because this is done in the order that I saw it, which is why there's no real organizational system to it. I might switch that up. But it was the first thing, and when I was writing it, I was like, wow, the 1st of February, and I'm already thinking it's much, 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 much better. So that was exciting. I enjoyed it. I was really surprised by Starship Troopers. I didn't realize how like kind of dark of a film it was. So that was interesting. Um, that was when so I was editing it, and that I did. I would say probably more video clips with that than I did probably the rest of them for that reason of I was quite. I was just teaching myself, so I really wanted to fuck around with it a lot. So that one was pretty good. Megalobox. I think I stumbled on this one. I don't think this one was nearly as good. I really like Megalobox, and that's kind of why I feel bad because I think Megalobox is such an awesome show, and it looks so good, and it's so well done. But I think I just kind of pontificated about competition a little bit too much. This one felt a little bit like just wandery to me. Like I didn't really have a point to what I was saying. I just kind of wandered between individual thoughts without any cohesive like mission statement. So I was a little bit disappointed with myself with that one, but that's all right. Making progress day by day. So I wasn't huge on that one. I was happy to include that. Oh man, that clip at the end is so good, and I'm so proud of that. Well, I'm not proud of it. I was so excited to show that off because it's just so fucking awesome. And including the music, just for a second, like that, I go so hard on that music. That music rules. So that one I thought was pretty good. House of X and Powers of X. I really barely even. I talked about the art a bit, which I was actually a big problem I have with a lot of comic criticism, and I'm not trying to call any specific people out because a lot of the people who I consume are generally really good for this, but a lot of things I've seen in passing A thing I see a lot of the time is people just talk about comic books like they're movies or books. They don't really talk about the art all that much, or they'll just do it in passing reference. And I think that's a massive failure on their part. Comic books are a visual medium. If you're not talking about the art, you're a script doctor. You're talking like what's even the point? It's you, there is value there, but I really do think that a lot of people need to really hone in on the art because the art is the window into the story. And if you don't have things to say about the art, you don't have things to say about it. It's like talking about a movie without talking about like the actors or the shots or the way it's put together or the scene composition or the editing. It's just ridiculous on its surface. But a lot of people I think talk about them just like scripts, like they're just kind of bouncing from bubble to bubble to bubble, and I don't think that's very good. So I was happy that I talked about the art quite a bit, but the flip side of that is I didn't really talk about the story all that much, or I don't think at all. But that volume is very setting the tone for the thing. Like Jonathan Hickman's going to be doing this big long arc, and he said that the thing that he wants to do is he wants to do this big long arc and then completely reset it so that he can do whatever he wants, so that the next people don't have to be beholden to his decisions, which is I think the best thing that you can do given the machinations of superhero comic books. Because I also talked about how I don't like superhero comic books pretty much at all. So I thought that was really the best he could do, but it did mean that I didn't really have all that much to talk about because it was a lot of scene setting. I did like the story. I think Jonathan Hickman's a really good writer, but I didn't have too much to say about it. So I mostly just talked about the art and about I kind of used it as a jumping off point to flesh out my thoughts on superhero comics because I had kind of shit on them in the last video in the Jack Kirby section, I believe. So I used it as a jumping off point to talk about that, and I love talking about how I don't like superhero comics. If anyone who knows me personally will know that it takes very little prodding to get me to talk about how I hate superhero comics because I'm a huge comic book fan. I always include a link to my library thing in my descriptions, and you can see that's every comic book I've ever read is on my library thing because I started reading comic books later in life. I didn't really read comic books as a kid. I think other than a few stray issues when I was quite young of just random like grab bags, I didn't read a comic book until I was 13, and I was not regularly reading comic books until I was 19. Because when I was 13, I read some Alan Moore and I read a tiny bit of Frank Miller, but I didn't really read comic books. I just read those two authors. Um, and then when I was 19, I really got into them because of Preacher, which is a thing I definitely want to talk about someday. Um, so, but to me, comic books are not superheroes. You'll see, like, I've read over 800 comic books. Maybe 30 of them are superheroes, and the rest of the 770 or whatever the exact number is are all non superheroes because I don't like superheroes. So I use that as a jumping off point to kind of talk about that. I'll probably do it a lot more. Um, but that's its own thing. I'm just gonna close the window. I don't know if you can hear it, but there's neighbor kids out there shouting. So well, if you can hear it, you can't anymore. And then I talked about Martyrs. Martyrs is clearly the centerpiece of this video essay. It is the one I'm most proud of by a pretty good margin, and it's the longest one. I have it pulled up on my computer in front of me. It's just shy of 18 minutes long, and the next longest is like 10, just shy of 10 minutes. So literally almost twice as long. I was really happy with my writing, and man, that remake is so bad. There are so many other things that I didn't get into because I was just writing them. I was writing it at 2 in the morning, and I just started writing, and I started to get really, really tired. And one of the things that I've been doing is part of the original thing was because I had not been writing for so long, and editing is a scary part of the process to me. I just decided I'll write them, and other than like readability and grammatical errors, so that I can read the script better, I'm not going to edit it. So I just started getting tired, and then I stopped. So there's a bunch of stuff in that remake that I didn't talk about, that is just terrible. It's so awful. There's this scene at the end where a woman gets crucified, as if naming your film Martyrs wasn't enough. Like you thought, man, the movie is named Martyrs, which is a very clear like reference to that. But no, we'll just make sure someone gets crucified at the end, just in case you really can't pick up on that symbolism there. It's like fucking Zack Snyder directed it. Little jab. I like to make fun of Zack Snyder, even though I actually kind of like some of his movies. Um, so I was really proud of that one. Although I would like to do one on the original Martyrs sometimes, because I love Martyrs is one of my three favorite movies of all time, and I love it. I have so much to say about it. I didn't even mention how like one of the main things I think that movie is about is how like the worship of pain and our cultural kind of addiction to doing that. But whatever, maybe someday. And then I moved on from that to The Crow. I think this one's just not very good at all. I didn't really have any strong feelings on The Crow. I really tried to like The Crow, and I really felt like the whole time I was reading it, I thought to myself, man, this is this has the skeleton of something I really like, but it just didn't hit with me for whatever reason. It's one of those things where I would never argue with someone if they said they loved it, or if even if it was one of their favorite comic books, because I think I get it. I see why they would love it. Like looking at it, I can see the appeal, but I can't find it myself. I don't know why. Um, so I thought this one was kind of a bit of a dud. The one thing that my girlfriend pointed out about this, and if you're watching this, I'd like to see if you agree or if you disagree. She says she specifically liked about this one because I did less plot recapping, um, which is a problem I acknowledge I've been having. I've been having a really hard time not recapping the plot, which is a bad habit to be in generally. But for whatever reason, um, I find it a lot easier if I kind of do a plot recap and then talk about the specific things and what they made me think. But she said that this was a good example of me not doing that. I'm specifically just bringing up little moments and talking about it in that way instead of just doing kind of like a big plot dive with commentary on the side. So I want to see if anyone else agrees or if they think maybe that's off base. I think she's right, but I have a real hard time looking at my writing. This is part of that. So I wasn't huge on that one, but I wasn't really huge on The Crow. What I've found is that for me the worst bits of writing are always things that I was middling on. Things I hate, I think I can do well sometimes, and things I love, I think I can do well sometimes. But things that I'm just kind of whatever on, I often find that I'm not really happy with the writing there. And then we have Muppet Treasure Island. Man, what a high peak to start on with the 1979 Muppet movie, which is just fantastic. It just rules. It's just so awesome. And then to really really go as far down as Muppet Treasure Island. That's where I have the editing joke about Disney that I was really proud of. I think that's funny, and I was really proud of teaching myself how to do that editing, because I'm coming into this with basically the only editing knowledge that I carried in was cut and trim. So now that I'm starting to slowly teach myself like actual fade ins and stuff like that, I'm pretty happy with that, even though, this is probably first 2 weeks of editing 101, but whatever, probably the first day. But so I was part of that joke, but writing wise, this one's fine. I don't really have any strong feelings on it. And then we move on to Baraka, and I enjoyed Baraka quite a bit, but it's a hard thing to talk about, especially at length, because Baraka is very much, since there's no plot and it's just basically all editing and structure and composition, it's hard to talk about other than just say it looks great. It's trying, like, it has this connectivity tissue. Like I tried to figure out what the connective tissue was. And that's what I thought it was. I thought it was connectivity. I thought it was the similarities that people have and stuff like that. But it's a hard thing to talk about because you can't like hit plot beats. There's some scenes you can talk about. I talked about the dancing, which looks awesome. I don't know what it is, but it looks great. Talked about the chicken thing, which I thought just was very, very pretentious. But it was kind of hard for me to talk about. So this isn't what I'm thrilled with, but I'm also not upset with myself for it. You know, like I'm annoyed with myself for my writing up on The Crow, but for this one, I don't know. I don't know what a better look at Baraka would look like. So it's not like I tried to build to something and then failed. I just don't know what that would look like. So that's those. I'm really proud of my editing upping. The writing I think is going up, but not as quickly. But that's okay. You know, step at a time. What are we doing for the next video? What are the next challenges? So one of them. So I've already done give myself more editing time, which I'm gonna keep doing these. Like these aren't just experiments. They're gonna be in addition to. So I'm still gonna keep on with my 1,000 word minimum, and I'm still gonna keep on with giving myself more editing time, and I'm just gonna keep adding things to it. And one of the things I'm gonna add to it is I'm going to go back and edit them. I think it's time. I think now that I've done this twice, and now that it's just shy of 30,000 words, I can start going back. Like before I record it, I will edit the scripts and try to clean them up and make them better. I'm gonna really try not to do what the trap that I've fallen into, which has stopped me in the last 5 years from getting back to this channel, which has been I edit and I edit and I edit and I edit and I edit, and I'm just never happy with it, so it never turns into anything because I just keep tinkering with it till it's kind of worthless. So I'm not going to do that, but I'm going to give it 1 or 2 passing edits before I record it. The other thing I'm going to try to do is I'm going to have an intro and an outro. The lack of intro and outro are remnants of when my friend did this, because last year, as I've mentioned in my last retrospective, my friend did this kind of a similar thing, but she just wrote it up and posted it on her blog, and me and my friend group all read it, and we would talk about it and blah 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 blah. So that didn't really require any intro or outro. She would just video games and then list every video game she played, and then movies and list every movie, and then blah 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 blah. But I think for video, I really need to start doing an intro and start doing an outro. I think I lose people, or I will lose people by just saying the name and then going in with no, with no intro as to what I'm trying to do, because I can't expect everyone to watch my explanation video. So that's going to be a thing I focus on. So it's going to be going back and editing, an intro and an outro. Those are going to be my big things. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. There probably is. I'm probably going to be annoyed with myself once I upload this. But again, as always, if you have any feedback, positive or negative, please let me know. I really do want feedback so I can know what's hitting with people and what isn't, and what's working and what isn't, because I'm having a hard time judging just by myself. So if you could do that, and of course, like, subscribe. There are bells apparently, comment, whole 9 yards. I'm really going to try to work this up and get this better and better and better. So hope you're enjoying the ride so far, and I hope it gets a lot better from here.